Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Mary O'Connell, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, and everything happening in the cold chain world. Not only is there the coolest show in freight, but there's also Running on Ice, a newsletter that cannot be colder. You can subscribe to that on FreightWaves.com/running on ice. Today, we welcome Robert Kelch, CEO and co-founder at AEM. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I am excited to get into this. This is something that we've only recently kind of touched on the show, and that is kind of, the things that power reefer units and all the basically things that power everything that we need on the cold chain. And that is kind of the things, the exciting life of batteries, and other ways to power our reefer units. So I'm excited to get further into that. Let's get some background on you and how you got started at AEM Greens.
Yeah, we started in 2009. My brother and I, he's a PhD in physics, so actually he's the smart one. And we were looking for something in alternative energy in transportation. And 2009, we actually got blocked in by a local Shamrock delivery trailer and discovered that's how all our food got delivered, was by diesel reefers. And so we chatted about it for a month or so and said, well, can we make one of these things run off of solar? So as opposed to running off of diesel, let's see if we can run off of solar, because that would be huge. It would really save the environment, save a lot of economics for the fleet. And, solar makes sense when you compare it to hydrogen or propane or other forms of combustible fuels. The solar just made a lot of sense. So about 6 months later, we had one running on solar. And to this day, we've been running ever since 2009. And I think it really boils down to how much of the solar can run the TRU, depending on what the TRU route is, right? Is it making 12 stops over 16 hours or 6 stops over 8 hours? So we've spent the last 15 years in applications engineering, really looking at the individual fleet operations to see exactly what they needed in combination of our solar panels, our wheel generator that also is a range extender for the battery, because it's a battery-based system. So that's what everybody has to wrap their head around, is that if you're going to go zero emission, 100%, you've got to go to a battery-based system. So that's what we've done for the last 15 years, is running reefers on battery-based systems.
I absolutely love that because it solves so many issues. Before we get too far into the nitty-gritty, for those who might not have caught our conversation on the Net Zero Carbon Summit, do you mind kind of giving us a quick overview of what exactly the solar TRUs are and kind of how they work?
So the solar TRU has about 109 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is lithium. So it's fairly lightweight. And that battery size is based upon the fleet operator's typical route for the day. And that's the backbone of the system, is the battery. And then we supplement that battery with a charger, much like a forklift charger. So we're always looking for power. Anytime we don't have to run on a battery and save battery life at a distribution center, then we try to plug into the grid and try to use the chargers. And really, Mary, in our case, it's not a charger. It's an auxiliary power unit. Now, that may sound like a little bit of a dodge, but a charger, when you plug your Volvo tractor in, you plug it in and walk away from it. On a TRU, you keep your food cold. So you're constantly on and off with your compressor hitting temperature set points. And there's a lot going on in that system. So it's really more like an airplane. Everybody's pulled up to the gate and you see the lights flicker in the airplane and you go, oh, what's that? Well, that's moving from the battery off to the grid. And that's what we have to do. And we have to do it invisibly to the operation. You don't want a special step in there to have somebody have to do something physically to shut it off to switch over to the grid. So it's all automated, Mary. So the solar contributes a certain amount of energy every day. The wheel generator off the rear axle of the trailer generates power every day, and then the grid converts AC power and converts it to battery power while it's coming back from a route or while it's being loaded for a route, or being pre-cooled for that matter.
I really like that you guys have taken that approach to make it just automated. So that way you don't have to worry about someone, not that any warehouse worker would ever accidentally forget to plug something in. I like that you've taken that part out of it because as we know, things get busy at a warehouse and there's so many things happening and you're trying to make sure that, you verify all the shipping paperwork, you verify the carrier's identity, you verify all this stuff. And the last thing you want to forget is to plug in your reefer unit and then have to, oops, the guy drove away and it's not charged. So have fun and hopefully you don't have to go far. I like that you guys have taken that part out of it and truly made it, like you said, automatic. So that way it's one less thing for everyone to worry about in an already hectic situation.
Oh, you're so right. Trying to integrate zero emission into a diesel operation that's been operating that way for the last 50 years, it's a challenge, and it's a human challenge. It's not so much a machine challenge, but a human challenge of how do you behave? When we all got our cell phones for the first time, well, I had to learn to plug them in at night, or you were kind of out of course for the next day, right? And it's very much the same way, the same thinking. So we spend a lot of time, Mary, with site support, and we don't sell systems without our own site support. And a lot of that support, besides maintaining the equipment, has to do with training the people on site. And, when you miss a plug or you have a new hire that misses 40% of the plugs or all the plugs the night before, it takes training to jump in there, and it takes automation to alert us to say, oops, Joe just got hired and he doesn't know he's supposed to plug in the electric TRU. Let's have a meeting.
Have you guys found that people like kind of once you guys do your site visit and train everyone up, have you found that some of the warehouse workers are more excited about this system or, just prefer working to it compared to just having diesel reefer units running all the time around? Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the smell of a gas station every now and then, but I feel like doing nothing but breathing in and smelling diesel all day is not pleasant as a warehouse worker.
No, you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. And I would say it's split maybe 70-30. 70% of the people go, wow, this is really nice. It's quiet. I don't smell anything coming out of it. My life is better. And the other 30% go, this isn't the way I did it for the last 10 years. So I don't like this stuff. It's something new and I don't want to accept it. So there's a certain amount of pushback that I think is just human nature. So we call our product a very compassionate product, right? We're very compassionate with the human factor of trying to integrate a new technology.
I think that's the biggest, I think you hit the nail on the head, is that the biggest part of those that are maybe hesitant is that it's different. It's not how it's been done. And it's that whole fear of change because we've always done it this way. Why wouldn't we just continue to do it this way? But that's not really your guys' style. Your guys' style is to come in and break down how we've always done it and say, this is a little bit better. So for those customers that you've been able to kind of onboard and, see the improvements, have there been any, because obviously some of the biggest concerns that come around switching away from a diesel reefer unit is that range. You've got that range anxiety, but, it's solar powered. So if you're stuck in the middle of the highway and like a pile up and you're going to be delayed a couple hours, you don't have to worry about having to stop out and get your diesel because you have that solar that's actively making energy for you and you have that battery backup. Have you guys noticed anything or any kind of hesitancy around that range anxiety? I know it's something you guys have really spent a lot of time in research in.
Oh, that's the big kahuna, range anxiety. I mean, everybody's worried about range anxiety. I'm going to go out and buy an electric vehicle tomorrow. I'm all about range anxiety. So it's a very important issue. So yeah, that's why the solar is very important. And actually the wheel generator is very important for that reason as well. We learned our lesson, over the last 15 years that you can't build your battery pack to size it for that day's operation. You have to build your battery pack for 2 days of operation because you will always run into that missed plug-in or that issue that comes up to where somebody had a problem at the dock and they spent an extra 4 hours at the dock and left it there running without plugging it in, and it's just the chaos. Everybody that's listening to this knows what the chaos in their distribution center looks like. And it's something everybody's got to manage around, including us. So yeah, we learned early on to build the battery pack big enough for 2 days, big enough for that Los Angeles traffic jam to where the freeway stops for 4 hours, and you go, oh my God, my life's coming to an end. What's happening here?
I wish there was something that we could do for drivers that were like stuck in 4 hour traffic. Like, I know that you're stuck in a pile up. So here, have fun sitting in traffic for 4 hours. I wish there was like a way you could like wave a magic wand and make it better. But sadly, I don't think that's the case. I don't think we've quite developed the waving a magic wand technology.
We all like Disney, though.
There you go. Um, so one of the things I'm curious about is how have people reacted to it? Because obviously, because obviously you guys have this new solution, and everyone is, well, diesel's how we've always done it, and there have been some regulations come through that you need to have cleaner fleets, less carbon emissions. Have you guys seen all kind of people, reefer carriers, jump at the chance to make this switch, or are they kind of more hesitant, or once they kind of see the benefit of not having to spend extra money on diesel, it kind of pays off?
Yeah, you run into the culture side of every corporation you're dealing with. And so culturally, there's people that are early adopters that want to get moving on with this. They know it's coming like a freight train at them. And so, anytime you got a freight train coming at you, you need to do something. There's also people that are not going to do this until they're forced to the last minute, and it's going to be unfortunate for them. So I think the early adopters that we're experiencing right now, they put up with the pain of making a transition to a new technology. It takes a certain time period for them to migrate to that technology. And then the first time the carbon report comes out and they go, we saved 200 tons of carbon? Really? Wow. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. They're just getting started with it. So I think it's really important for people to understand their cultures, and to embrace that culture, whatever it is, and try to deal with the future that's coming at us, very, very quickly.
I think that I have long since said that those that are dragging their feet and more hesitant to adopt some of the more carbon friendly options are in for a very interesting next couple years, because it's not going to be, oh, I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to have to. It's going to be like, no, you kind of actually have to do it. Otherwise, you either are going to lose business or potentially get fined, depending on certain states and regulations that come out. So I'm very curious to see how some of those tunes change here in the next few years, and those scrambling to go, oh, I guess I got to get this together now.
Yeah. And, I've always, I've been dealing with CARB for, it seems like a lifetime now. And, California Air Regulation Board. And you don't want to have to be forced into anything. None of us want to be forced into anything. So the culture that has to be, I think, implemented in the corporations that have a large carbon footprint is ethically. They need to do the right thing. And when a vice president walks through his distribution, OPCO parking lot and sees the difference in noise and can smell the difference in the air, they've got a responsibility to themselves, to their children, to their grandchildren, to society as a whole. So, it's not just the regulations, Mary, it's doing the right thing. And, what we have to supply is the technology that's adequate for them to do the right thing and gain their confidence.
Have you guys found that it's like, because there's not a lot of solar powered reefer units, or there's just not, like, it doesn't really exist. There's been some different kind of biofuels, obviously diesel, which will always be around. Have you guys found any kind of like resistance in the industry for those saying like, you can't do this off solar? Have you kind of found that it's an uphill battle for a lot of the time?
Oh, huge uphill battle, but it's mainly the diesel guys that say you can't do it on solar. So the people that are using it and experiencing it, the people that are experiencing it and using it are going, wow, this works. And so immediately actually, Mary, what happens is we'll move in with our solar TRUs into a facility, and all of a sudden they'll start thinking about solar on their building, solar in their parking lot. It's an instigator. So, we like that. We want to see people moving over to, in fact, the California Energy Commission at our Earth Day in April said 60% of the grid in California is now supplied by solar. That's amazing.
That is amazing. California's about to earn the nickname the Sunshine State for the stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
I kind of like though that the solar powered reefer units are the gateway drug to solar, to more solar in in your ecosystem. Um, they didn't quite tell us about that in Dare in like fifth grade. Is that watch out for those solar units, your gateway.
Exactly, exactly.
So, obviously, everyone does have this focus on sustainability and reach air. Some companies are looking to be net zero carbon. Some are just looking to, be better, which I'll settle for. Better every day is all we can do. Um, do you guys find that, this is kind of scratching all of those itches, that those who are kind of what am I trying to say? How do you like those that are just kind of curious about like, is this something I can do? Do you find that more often than not, if someone's at least just kind of curious about improving emissions, they more often than not take the solar approach just because I feel like it is a little easier to implement than, a biofuel situation or something else. I feel like it's kind of I don't want to say low cost because obviously it's very expensive or it can be costly to redo an entire fleet. But do you kind of feel like once you get a tester and then once you kind of get a little bit of a foot in the door, it's just kind of like a wrap it up, let's do the whole fleet?
Yeah, it is. There's a tendency to go that way, and then we're faced with manufacturing capability and volumes, and so I think that's where we're at right now. Is you start out with a few dozen, and then a few hundred, and then you move into a few thousand, and we're moving from a few hundred to a few thousand now, and so you really, I think every single fleet has to try it first, and whether it's 5 or 10 or 20 they try, you really need that kind of a number, Mary, in order to see if it's going to work or what you have to do to make it work in your fleet operations. And so that's the natural first step, and we really encourage that. But the fact of the matter is that you're at cost parity right now with diesel, which is pretty amazing. So our fleets that we talk to are spending $0 to eliminate carbon. So a ton of carbon costs them nothing to eliminate because we're doing it for the same price as diesel.
That is possibly the biggest game changer is the fact that it's not, I don't have to, I mean, obviously I'm going to have to shell out some money to update my system and kind of get everything that you need. But I'm not going to have to continue to spend more than what I'm already expecting, which is just bangers amazing because that I feel like is the number one, complaint that everyone has when it comes to alternative fuels or kind of alternative power sources is that, oh, well, it's so expensive to do. I have to shell out like $10 million to make this one small change. And it's not, it's just the same cost as normal doing business.
Yeah, you're exactly right. What we did, we were involved in creating the core program in California. And the strategy there was not to make it free for early adopters, but to try to get cost parity with diesel for early adopters and to create beachheads to demonstrate the technology in fairly large volumes, in the hundreds and thousands. And, my brother and I, as applications engineers our whole lives, literally look for the application. And in this application, you can't increase the price of food. I mean, it's already too expensive for everybody. So our mantra with the state of California has been all along, look, our 15 years of work at this isn't just to develop the product. It's to develop the product so that it's commercially viable. And that's a big step to try to get your cost of manufacture down so that you can integrate it into an operation for very little cost. So we're to the point now to where, maybe the competitors talk about us and say, oh, that's not possible. But the people we're dealing with know very well that it's possible. So that's the advantage that the early adopters have is they've got visibility. They're approaching the runway with a clear sky, whereas other people that are early adopters are going to approach that runway in the clouds.
I really like that you mentioned that because it's something that I think we see a lot with some solutions is that there is this great solution, there's this great answer, and then it's that scalability that really is kind of where it doesn't quite meet the mark. You'll have something that works for maybe a very, very, very small fleet. But by the time you try to size it up or make it work for literally anyone else, that's where it falls flat. So nice little humble brag there that you guys have solved that solution.
Thank you. We're very proud of that.
As you should be. So I have 2 more questions for you. And the first one is, what's the future? What's next? Do you see kind of solar powered TRUs taking off and becoming the future?
Yeah, I think when you get down to the economics, look, in the engineering world, it's all math. Whether you like it or not, it's math. And when you get down to the math of this, you're not going to get cheaper than using the sun. Period. End of conversation. And, the solar, we've been working in solar panel development for 25 years, 30 years now. And, we're really in the early days of perfecting the technology, make it more efficient. And lithium batteries are the same way. So we're where the combustion motor was in 1935. What does that tell you? That's the future. I mean, the future is reduce costs, reduce costs, reduce costs. Be intelligent. Don't pollute if you don't have to. I mean, that's one of the first things we learn as children, right? Don't pollute if you don't have to.
Leave the place better than you found it. And that seems to be, you could just make that the tagline for AEM Green. We left it better than we found it.
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about it, we're all interested in legacies before we pass on. And what a great legacy to save the planet, on your way out or while you're here.
I mean, selfishly, I'm a big fan of the planet still being here.
Aren't we all?
So, Robert, there's a question that everyone comes on the show, they have to answer. And unfortunately, you are no exception today, or fortunately, depending on how you feel about this. Is cereal considered a soup?
No, I'm from an old German family, and cereal is definitely not considered a soup. Although I enjoy it, it is not a soup.
That is how I think, which I'm glad that you're on the right side of this camp. I see the logic for those that say it is. I do not agree. But then again, I'm a monster who eats cereal out of like a cup just dry. So
there you go.
Love that for me. So Robert, if someone wants to question your cereal is soup opinions, or if they have any questions about kind of where do you even start on converting to solar TRUs, where can they find you outside the show?
Yeah, so Advanced Energy Machines, and you can go to the website aem.green, and there you'll see the whole introduction to going green while staying in the black, which is our mantra. That's what we want everybody, every fleet to understand. You don't have to spend crazy money to go green. We're in a position with the 15 years we've got into this technology to take you green while you're staying in the black. So don't be scared. Jump in.
You guys heard it here first. Jump in. Robert's got your back. Don't worry about it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
You can catch other episodes of Running on Ice right here on FreightWaves TV, YouTube, or anywhere else you get your podcasts like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Need more Running on Ice news? No sweat. Subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/runningonIce. See you on the internet.